I'm 32, my sister is 28, and we've always been incredibly close. Point in case, she was the first person I told I was pregnant, besides my husband. I told her a week after I got a positive pregnancy test, about 3 months before her wedding. I told her that I would tell our parents and my husband's parents around the 10-week mark, but she told me that I should hold off until her wedding in September. I'd be like 4 months along at that point, so I wouldn't be showing really, and she thought it would be so special for her to be able to make an announcement about a special guest at her wedding. And it's her first niece or nephew and my parents' first grandbaby. So I agreed because it seemed like it meant a lot to her. And again, we were super close and I was happy to do that for her. The first trimester was awful with morning sickness and exhaustion. I would have preferred to talk about it with my mom, but I was willing to grin and bear it for my sister's wedding. Well, the wedding came along, and about halfway through the night, I asked her when the announcement was happening. She told me that she'd changed her mind and that her wedding didn't seem like a good time or place to announce my pregnancy. I was super upset since I went through an awful first trimester with my only sister and husband to lean on. But I decided I wasn't going to put the announcement on hold any longer just for her, so my husband and I pulled my parents aside and quietly told them to keep it private for the evening. They were thrilled with lots of hugs and a few tears, but a very touching and private moment. Literally no one else found out until I announced it on Facebook a week later. My sister found out around the same time as my Facebook post when my dad mentioned how we told him about it, and she texted me and called me a witch who made her wedding about myself, and she hasn't spoken to me since. I've messaged her and apologized probably a dozen times since then, but she refuses to talk to me, and now she refuses to come to see her little nephew, who's a newborn. My parents and partner think I did nothing wrong since she went back on her word and that I should just wait it out and she'll come around. I'm obviously unsure as this has made her so upset with me and we were so close before. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You know what happened here, right? Your sister didn't want you to steal any of her wedding thunder leading up to the wedding. She saw this as her time and the focus was supposed to be on her upcoming life event, not yours. That's why she told you not to tell anyone at all and then she'd announce it at the wedding. I don't think she ever planned to announce it. It was just a way to keep you from telling anyone so she could be the center of attention for months. OP, I'm sorry about your sister, but congrats on your little one. This is the exact vibe I got too. OP was being manipulated. Stop apologizing and enjoy your new family. Honestly, OP, making you keep it secret from your parents that long was a crappy thing to do, especially when she saw you suffering through the first trimester. I don't know your situation with your parents, but it sounds like you could have really used their support, help and reassurance during that time, and your sister kept that from you. I 100% agree. She never had the intention of making an announcement. She was worried your parents would support you in your pregnancy rather than her, or maybe wouldn't spend as much money on her wedding because they were preparing and buying things for the baby. One thing OP should learn. Her sister does not consider her the same way she does. They are not close. Exactly. OP, I wouldn't bother reaching out to the sister. When you run into her at Mom's, just grey rock her hard. She's a selfish, plotting person. You went through half your pregnancy without your parents' support because her wedding was more important. I can't believe she'd want you to go through this with little to no support. How awful. Background: my mom had me with my bio father, but he bailed before I was even born. My mom's best friend Locke stepped up and told her he would be my dad, and he's been my dad ever since I was born. Mom and dad were never together, always just friends since my dad is gay, but it just worked. When I was 7, my mom met her husband Matt, and ever since he and my mom got serious, I've known he has issues with my dad. It started out slight enough. He would tell people dad was my wife's friend and not that he was my dad. He also didn't correct anyone who wrongly assumed he was my dad. But then he asked me to spend Father's Day with him instead of my dad. It wasn't pushed exactly, but the tone was, he's not your dad, but I could be type of thing. Then my mom was in an accident when I was 9, and he tried to argue that I should stay with him instead of with my dad, even though legally my dad was listed on my birth certificate and had legal rights to me in custody. It hurt my dad's relationship with Mom a bit, and it meant Matt was always to me someone who was trying to interfere where he didn't belong. My teens were rough with stuff, but the final blow came when Matt showed up to a father-daughter event for Father's Day that I hadn't invited him to and that I was attending with my dad, and attempted to get my dad to leave. Then told him that he wasn't married to a mom, Nor was he my bio dad, and he should have stepped aside so I could have a normal family. My mom and Matt are invited to my wedding, but he is nothing more than a guest and she's not much either. Matt objected to this. He offered to pay, which I rejected, and then he told me he was in the shadows of my wedding and it wasn't fair. I told him he had earned his place in the shadows and he wasn't important enough for me to invite, really. But Mom had sort of made it up by staying with him, so he was going as a courtesy to her and nothing else. He called me an ungrateful brat and said I shouldn't be so rude to him. I know what I said was cold, so I asked, am I the idiot? Ungrateful for what? He did everything he could to drive a wedge between you and your father and tried to force you to be someone you didn't want. Given his history, showing up at an event to cosplay father, you should uninvite him and tell your mum that you don't trust him not to cause a scene at your wedding. You are not the idiot, and get yourself some security. He's the type that would show up anyway. If your mom protests, uninvite her too. Congratulations on your upcoming wedding, and I hope you and your dad have a wonderful time. Oh honey, this man crashed a father-daughter event and caused a scene. And you seriously think you'll get all dressed up for your wedding and stay in the shadows like Batman? LMAO. He's absolutely going to throw a tantrum. But will it be when someone else walks you down the aisle, or when you do a father-daughter dance with dad, or when close friends and family do toasts and speeches? How exciting. That's my concern as well. LOL, my father-in-law threw a tantrum right before my sister-in-law was to walk down the aisle. He threw a major fit about how it should have been him sitting in the front row and how everyone could disrespect him this way, blah blah blah. It was a major embarrassment to everyone involved. Luckily, sister-in-law still has no idea it happened. Now brother-in-law made everyone promise never to tell her. Outside security is often brought in for such situations so the wedding party doesn't have to deal with it. How will you torpedo your relationship with someone, then expect to have a place of honor in their major life events? Insane. OP, it's more than a little heartbreaking that had your mom and Matt acted like adults, you could have had 3 people who loved you unconditionally. But in my experience, kids just need one person to be that for them. I'm glad you had your dad to demonstrate that for you. Pre-global issue, I, 33 male, would go on family vacations with my family. My parents in late 50s, brother 27 and sister 29. These occurred about every other year. For a multitude of reasons, we haven't made a trip since 2018. I'm married and we have a young toddler. My sister has a boyfriend and my brother has some sort of terrier and no girlfriend I know of. My brother has morphed into a self-described dog dad, and based on social media, seems to rarely do things without the dog. We live in the same city but in different areas and we don't see him all that much. The few times I've been around his dog, it behaves fine. Unfortunately, it's too friendly for me and I can't speak to how it behaves over multiple days or around babies. My parents have a beach house in Florida booked. In a few weeks, the deadline for a full refund for cancelling is coming up, and my parents need to know if we're in. We live in the west side of the USA, so we'd be flying. I found out my brother plans to bring his dog. My parents aren't thrilled about it, but it is what it is. Those are my parents' words. I'm not a dog person. I despise them on airplanes. I do not want to travel with the dog. Tentatively, we are on the same flight. I don't want to stay the week in the same house as the dog. I do not want activities based on being dog-friendly, and I do not want the dog around my son. Our parents want to stay out of it and have us hash it out. I broached the topic with my brother. Essentially, he isn't flexible on the dog. It's his family, and it's a family vacation. He says my son will be far more annoying and loud than his dog. He seems firm on this, and I'm ready to pull out of the trip. If I don't go, the trip may fall apart. So, am I the idiot? You are the idiot. It's a small dog and you said it was well behaved. It's fair to ask if the dog is kept away from the baby. A baby is far more inconvenient than a dog. You can leave a dog home alone for a few hours if people want to eat at a nice restaurant. It's rude to bring a baby to a nice restaurant. They have bedtimes and they scream at movies. Kids are awesome, but you're on a different planet. If you think the vacation is going to revolve around the dog, you're mistaken. It will revolve around your baby. I'm not sure that's so. The way he sets this up makes it sound like he's bashing his younger brother for having a dog but no girlfriend, as if bringing a girlfriend instead of a dog would be totally acceptable to him. The vibe OP gives me is that of an idiot, and I fail to see what OP means by the dog being too nice. OP sounds like he has a bit of a superiority complex about how a man should live, rather than that he just doesn't want to be around a dog that he describes as being well-behaved and too nice. Quite frankly, the dog being there is not an inconvenience for anyone but his brother, if at all. The baby? That will likely inconvenience everyone, but God forbid we mention it. Also, I want to point out OP doesn't possibly think his opinion makes him the idiot. Nope, he just wants to know if not going will make him the idiot. He seems to believe his way of thinking is infallible. OP, go, don't go, who cares? I guess your family isn't that important to you if someone else's well-behaved dog makes you feel this way. My sister has a boyfriend and my brother has some sort of terrier. I'm sorry, but this sentence cracked me up, LOL. Also, those of you comparing dogs to children are just, wow. Wild times, man, wild times. Not the idiot, that is totally your boundaries to draw, especially not wanting the dog around your son. Why do people need to bring their dogs everywhere? It's absurd to bring your dog on a plane on a cross-country trip. Surely that's not fun for the poor dog. I share 2 kids, Indy, tween male, and Colby, female pre-tween, with my ex-wife Thora. We've remained very close and she and I don't follow a strict parenting plan. We do our best to have the kids see us as much as possible. We celebrate every birthday and every Christmas together, and we show up to support our kids together as much as we can make work with our jobs. Our families are also still very tight. The kids love it. Sometimes it will be my parenting time, but they want Thora, and so they spend that day with her, or vice versa. Works so well for the kids. Thora married Michael in November 2021. He and I got along in the beginning. He loved Thora and was great with the kids, which is what Thora and I cared about most. But then this past summer, something changed with Michael. An example is Indy was singing and playing an instrument at this little talent show his summer camp set up. Thora and I both went, and so did Michael. We took the day off work. Michael didn't look happy to see me, and once Thora was not within earshot or sightline, he was visibly tense, and I swear he groaned at some point near me. Then Thora had to go out of state to see a friend of hers who was very sick. The kids chose to stay with me, and I don't believe Michael was happy about that. I tried to ask him about it, but he swore things were fine. In November, Indy and Colby had a busy month with different standout things within extracurriculars and school. I was lucky enough to attend 9 out of 10 of them, with Thora attending 8 out of 10. Michael got to attend 3 out of 10. All 3 were ones I could attend, and it felt very much like he didn't want me there. Late last month, when Michael and I were the ones attending a school function for the kids, he asked me to attend fewer of the kids' events and let him and Thora do some of that stuff with the kids as a family. I told him they already did. He said not when I'm around and that I'm getting in the way of him being a parental figure for the kids. I told him he was a parental figure and the kids loved him. He said they would never consider us equal until they saw him instead of me at some of these events. He says it's important for the more stable family unit of 4. I told him I wasn't willing to miss the kids' events. He didn't take it well and accused me of interfering and alienating their chances of a family unit. He texted me after the event with things he wanted me to miss, including Indy's elementary school graduation in May. I told him it wasn't happening. He told me Thora wanted this too. Thora knew nothing of this and told me the kids would be so upset if we did what Michael wanted, which I knew also. She was angry at Michael. Michael is still angry at me. He called me an idiot. I don't want to believe I'm an idiot, but I know this is not the norm for every divorced parent situation, and it makes me ask if I am the idiot for not letting them have some of those events just for them. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. He doesn't get to tell you, their biological father, to leave the room, for he who has only been around a couple of years. Stay of him asking you to step aside from being a present father. He's an idiot. And lying to you about what your ex said shows him to be a liar too, manipulating his way to you being a less present father? Yikes. What blows my mind is the fact that OP is so willing to allow this guy an essential role in his children's life because more love and support is a good thing, but the dude just keeps puffing his chest out to see who's the manlier man, who can be the best dad figure, who's more important to the kids, when the kids love them both differently in their own special way. I just don't get it. This is exactly what I was thinking, especially with the stable family unit comment. OP is already part of a stable family unit. Michael doesn't want to be respected more by the kids. He wants to replace OP entirely. I wouldn't be surprised if he's insecure about OP's relationship with his ex-wife, or even pushing the kids to call him dad instead of OP. Michael's trying to replace OP as the kid's primary father figure for sure. OP is the monkey wrench in Michael's perfect little nuclear family fantasy, and that's a battle he'll always lose. OP will always be their father, one who's always been there for them, someone they can count on finding in the audience when they look for someone for reassurance. I hate how he's trying to alienate OP to create their family unit of 4. It's like he wishes OP were a deadbeat so he could step up and be the parent. OP is a great dad. Congratulations, keep it up. My girlfriend always seems to zone out whenever there are really long conversations. She zones out if I talk about my day or how work went, or even when we're out with friends. And whenever I call attention to this, she always says it's because it was pretty boring. So I asked her if she might have ADHD, and she's trying to make an appointment with a therapist but hasn't been able to, and as of yet, she's still looking. Yesterday we had dinner at my parents' house and she began drifting off. My dad pointed this out and she apologized but then did it again. When the dinner was over and we drove back, I got really annoyed, and I yelled at her that she couldn't just keep saying sorry and expecting me to be cool with it. She told me it was out of her control, and then I said to get it under control then. Today she's been very quiet and withdrawn, and I'm feeling really bad for how I acted. Am I the idiot? Info, have you tried being more interesting? Are you guys having a conversation or just talking at her without letting her talk at all? Because I've dated those guys, and of course I was nodding off as they blabbered on about themselves and asked me nothing about myself or my day. You are the idiot. Here's why. There are 2 possible reasons why this is happening. Possible reason 1. She has a neurological issue that's out of her control, in which case you are the idiot for getting angry. From my perspective, saying get it under control is like telling a depressed person, have you tried not being sad? Possible reason 2. You're the sort of person who will drone on and on and on and bloody on forever about things because you're narcissistic and need to have a captive audience as you drone and drone and drone. In which case, you are the idiot and need to learn about the give and take of conversation. Since she says your conversation is boring, my bet is on reason 2, but I can't be certain. I'm going with everyone's the idiot here. You shouldn't have yelled. That doesn't get you anywhere. But it might be neurological, and it's up to her to pursue finding out what's going on, because just saying she's bored is rude. If she's visibly zoning out, it's causing problems in her life, and she should be, at the least, trying to learn why.